Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
William Ernest Adams, Jerry Laverne Alferink, Roy Allen, Andrew Augustus Allen III, Douglas Dwight Alley, Roger Carl Atkinson, William Michael Bagshaw, Vincent Norval Banks, Iria Daniel Barnett, Timothy Paul Bauer, Joseph Frederick Bauer, Jr., Ronald Stephen Bay, David Tommy Bell, Simi Bellamy, Jr., Martin Joseph Benson, Elmer Eugene Barry, Calvin Hart Bigger, Ovie Ursel Blankenship, Raymond James Brereton, Thomas Coleman Brewer, Jr., Harry Philip Brightman, Christopher Brow, James Truly Brown, Alvin Ray Brown, Robert Wilson Brown, Jr., Johnny Edward Brumley, Larry R. Butcher, Norman Kelly Biassy, George Ellis Bird, Vincent Jr. Canizaro, Robert Thomas Karnowski, Joseph Kenneth Carroll, Ronald C. Cavaney, Ernest Chaffins, Jr., Bradley Chavis, William David Choi, Irvin Clark, Jr., Charles Edward Clay, George Porteous Collins, Eugene Copeland, Michael Cotton, Hobart Earl Covington, Robert Stewart Cragen, Jr., Robert Barry Crosby, David Guy Cummings, Charles E. Daniels, Robert Lee Dougherty, John K. Davis, Theodore H. Davis, Lawrence Joseph De Felice, James Edward Deese, Jr., David Wood Denlinger, Richard Lincoln Desper, Jim Lee Dixon, Mark Stephen Diorio, J. C. Dyer, Danette A. Edwards III, Daniel Gerard Ely, Thurman Henry Emery, Jr., Albert Erskine, Garfield Evans, Robert Lane Fallows, Michael John Fleming, Johnson Francis Frank,
Jerry Ray Frazier, Lamar Donald Frederick, Michael James Frenzel, Manuel Galvez Pastrana, Juan Garcia, Michael Sheridan Garrett, John Perry Gilliam, Edward John Ginter, Gordon Philip Gipner, Frank Bard Glendenning, William Harrison Goins, Robert Joseph Gold, Stephen Victor Goldstein, Manuel Gonzalez, Leon Russell Gooddale Jr., Richard Leonard Hamilton, Larry Gene Harrison, Donald F. Hartzell Jr., Robert Leon Harvey, Robert Blanchard Hedge, Roger Ray Hurdle, Jack Landon Himes, Dwayne Allen Hipple, David Paul Hoffman, Robert Lee Hoskins Jr., Stephen Lee Huber, Henry Hudson Jr., Bellissimo Aureliano Hugo, Lynn Elmo Hunter, David Charles M. Jackson, Willie Lee James, Daniel Ray James, Robert Allen Hyans, Ronald D. Jewell, Richard Michael Johnson, Alan Harvey Katz, Patrick Brendan Keene, Sammy Edward Kinnaman, Larry Charles Koski, William Davis Chris Johnson, Dennis John Cromrie, Charles John Kurtz, Anthony LaRocco, Michael William Langnaes, Gary Kenneth Lanham, Ernest Albert LaRoche, Kenneth Anthony Levine Jr., Donald Chester LeBlond, Bernard Louis Lefevre, Lawrence Graham Lee Jr., Roger Dale Lewis, David John Link, Billy Dale Livingston, Warren G. H. Luzotte Jr., Philip Warren Lucas, Michael John Lutzke, Donald Eugene Madden, Frank James Matthews, Harry Mathis Jr., William Clay Matthews, Gerald William McCaffrey, Alan Lee McCall, Hugh John McCormick, Gerard Morris McDonald,
Samuel Dwayne McInturf, Carlos Medina, Ismael Menendez Ocasio, Robert Arthur Miller, Dennis Keith Millison, Clarence Mitchell, Eugene Myers Moppert, Calvin Carl Morgan, Raymond Charlie Moraksinski, Warren Francis Muir, Robert D. Murphy Jr., Walter Hodgkinson Nair, Donald Stephen Newton, James William Nicholas Jr., Jean Burton Nickerson, Stephen Scott Niederhaus, Arthur Allen Niedermeyer, Ray Nixon, Salvador Lopez Norzagari, Matthew Theodore Orton, James Edward Palmieri, Van Harvey Pearson, Donald L. Pender, Stephen Owen Perlwitz, Roy Lynn Petty, Thomas Victor Pilson, Wayne B. Platt, Billy Neal Plum, Mark Edward Policastro, Bradley Leland Powers, Ronald Leroy Quigley, Henry Leroy Quigley, Glenn Burley Rayo, Robert Linton Reeves, David Sterling Reed, Danny Ray Reichstad, Sherwood Reynolds, James Paul Richards, Clarence Howard Rickards, Alfredo Rivera, Timothy Roy Rowe, Robert Lennon Roebuck, Leonard Ray St. Clair, Cesar Ernesto Sanchez, Gerd Franz Selig, James William Sims, Joseph Michael Sinkowitz, Wayne Keith Sippy, Frederick E. Smith, David Leon Smith, Thomas Eugene Smith, Terrence Lee Snyder, John Martin Souther, Edward Charles Southern, Barry Jean Souders, John Mark Spielman, Roy Stephen Spurgeon, Gerald Martin Statz, Paul Francis Stedman, Richard Joe Sterling, John Leonard Stewart, Benjamin F. Stouffer II, Isaac Stringer Jr., Miles Boyd Stewart,
Ransom Lee Stuck, John Edward Swanson, Thomas James Sweeney, William M. Tarbell, Edward James Tarrant, Sherman Ray Taylor, John Randy Tennant, Robert Louis Terry, Jimmy Ray Tice, Richard E. Tomasini, Jr., Manuel Antonio Torres, Jack Riley Trim, Freddie Usher, Monty Eugene Van Skyke, Terry Lee Venge, George Thomas Volmar, Archie Carl Wabshall III, Dale Allen Walker, Robert Lee Walker, Richard Allen Wallach, George Samuel Walton, Joel Keith Watkins, Robert Lee Watts, Gary Allen Webb, Ricky Jackson Whitehead, Daniel Alban Wadomski, Peter Robert Wisniewski, John Michael Wyke, Richard D. Williams, Robert D. Williams, Jr., Francis DeSales Wills, William Bernard Wilson, Richard James Wilt, Michael Vincent Wright, Maximo Yabes, Raymond Yazzie, George Albert Young, Joseph Anthony Zuniga.